All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Ultra High Net Worth Clients Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Broadhead, one of two. We started this podcast as a way to create a central resource of the financial advisor practice growing tips shared by the most outstanding advisors in the industry, of which our guest today is definitely one. These outstanding financial advisors agree to be on the show and provide a ton of value for free, all in the hopes that our audience might learn from their words. My father was a financial advisor, and financial advisors are the main clients we serve. So, our marketing agency's mission is to help every financial advisor grow their business in an effort to help the world become more financially secure. Today, we have the rare pleasure of talking with an incredible financial advisor, Ronald Gross. Ron, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Hello, I'm Ron Gross. Live in the suburb of Cleveland called Beechwood, Ohio. I'm 63 years old. I've been practicing not in the financial service space, but I've been working since 1983 in the financial service space since 1989.
Wow. So, you started when you were 3 years old, man. Incredible.
I don't think so. I'm the old man of the group, with a little less hair, but I'm still energized and love doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we normally like to start with how you got started in this crazy industry. How'd you find yourself here?
It's one of these, you make three wrong turns. I actually was an accountant for 6 years.
Mhm.
My uncle was an accountant. My brother is an accountant. I thought, okay, accounting seemed like to be and then you realize you don't like living your life in 6-minute increments.
Mhm.
Uh, and I happened to be at the small little accounting firm I was at. I was in charge of all the retirement plans. And one of the owners of the retirement planning firm said, "You seem to like our industry. Would you ever think of joining our firm?" I go, "Well, I don't know." And then he gave me the offer, and it was $3,000 less than I was making. So then it was like, well, okay, I talked to my wife, but it seemed like a good industry, and I really liked the person, and he's still a mentor of mine named Jack Moskal. And I joined the firm in 1989, and then I got even more boring. I was a CPA first, and then I became an actuary later on.
Mm.
So, the joke, what's a actuary, a CPA who found accounting too exciting. So my expertise is not in individual wealth planning. It's in the retirement space, setting up cash balance and 401k plans for businesses and help their participants grow, as well as help the owners of the businesses grow. So it's kind of a unique niche and the firm I'm at is called 17, and I have other advisors. We have about 50 advisors. I'm the main one that really focuses in the retirement space in the
Mhm.
401k. So it's kind of a unique niche and I really love what I'm doing.
Mhm. That's awesome. So you joined 17 in 1989, you said?
That's another story. So I joined a firm in 1989, and I actually purchased the firm from the founder in 2002. And then, my nephew, his name was Rick Gross, worked for me. He joined in 2010, and he's social friends with another guy named Todd Resnick. And they were talking one day, let's put a business together. And Todd and I then met, and we have similar values on how we want to do things. How we can engage our employees, how we can give back to the community, how we can create a community of advisors. And all of a sudden, as we're talking, we go, there's something special here. And so that was about late 2015. And we made the jump. Let's start a company called 17. Uh, and, even I like the story, if you don't mind the story. When we came up with the name, every financial advising firm that I know of has the word group, investment, portfolio. There's all the investment words, right? We didn't want our name to be Ron and Todd and Rick Wealth Management, Ron and Todd and Rick Advisors, Ron, Todd, Rick Group. But we said we want something kind of unique and different, and kind of like Nike doesn't mean sports apparel. Nike now, it denotes sports apparel because they created it. So this edgy firm out of Chicago called Idea Booth came up with this. And like we said, that is the dumbest name that we ever heard. And then they presented it to us. So I'm wearing the 17 shirt. I don't know if you can see the triangles on the
Mhm.
logo. The
Yeah.
triangles are the negative space of a 1 and a 7.
Uh,
So, so when they presented it to us, it was like the 7 and the 1 fade out and the triangles fade in, and they go, "Oh my God, is that cool?" Next thing you know, we're 17. Now we can't even manage uh, being anything else. Now,
yeah.
fast forward to 2022, I had a company called MGO, Rick, Todd, and I had a company called 17, and then we merged the two companies in May of 2027. The legal name is MGO 17, but we still go by 17. So now we're at about, I don't know, as of last Friday, about 4.3 billion in AUM, about 50 advisors, but about $1 billion is in retirement plans. So that's where I spend my time.
Mhm.
I don't know if that
Wow.
painted a picture for you.
Yeah, yeah. That's great. So what is the 1-7? How'd they come up with that? What is that? What was that
Uh,
number?
so and originally there were 7 founders, not just me, Rick, and Todd. There were 4 other guys that helped start the business that worked at Morgan Stanley, and they go 7 advisors, 17. Yeah, there's even some spirituality in 7 days of the week. God rested on the 7th day, and I'm not all that religious about it, but 7 is good in gambling, right? And
Mhm.
it's just like 7 had a really kind of cool connotation, like Stephen Covey had 7 habits of highly effective people
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and all these things. And then it was like 17. And actually we wanted it written out, not written the number 1 in the 7, because then they would call it 17.
Right, right.
And so we wanted to make, and the positive is, you go to a party and they go 17, what the hell's that? And now it gives me an opportunity to tell the story. And,
Yeah.
and also the one thing that we also, as part of 17, I can share, what are our core values? So we run our business on something called EOS, which I think is important for every small business. A system.
Entrepreneur operating system.
Yep, we're disciples of that. And
Yeah,
our
that's a
core
great
value,
system.
I love it. And that was probably the single best thing we did for our business to give us structure. I thought I knew how to run a business. I didn't know anything. It was like, before we implemented it, we were like a ship that was sailing on the water and it was just going wherever the current took it. Now we're much more focused. But
Mhm.
our core values are client first, always be growing, um, own your own experience, and our favorite called VONA, value others, no assholes. And we purposely use the term, and some people get a little offended. Most people think it's kind of funny and fun. We want to work with people that we want to work,
Mhm.
and I don't need headaches. And if someone doesn't meet our core values from our employees to our advisors, then we don't want to work with them. So that's one of the filters that we put when we meet with new advisors. Are they good people? Do I want to work with them? And it
Mhm.
seems to resonate with a lot of, at least advisors we talk to, they go, "Shoot, I wish I would have. I wish I'd be doing that. If I have about 5 clients I should fire because they're my headache clients, right? It's like the 80
Yeah,
rule,
yeah,
not on the revenue, but on the headaches. 20%
yeah.
of clients give you 80% of the headaches, right? Not the ones that give you the best revenue as well. So anyway,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you have, like, a good system for, making sure you don't just have low blood sugar in your, like, firing clients or
um,
advisors?
we're not that really good at it. I've been to seminars where they say, yeah, you should fire the bottom 10% of your clients every year. I don't think anybody really does that. It's a good at a
Yeah.
seminar topic, but when you evaluate it, but I think we've done a good job of weeding out, either they weed themselves out or we've weeded them out over the years. So I can't think of any clients now or advisors that I would say, oh, when I see that phone number pop up on my phone, like, check, there's that, caller ID. I think we've done a good job of weeding it out. Not so much maybe 25 years ago that, we probably had a lot that were a little bit, we should have taken more action at that time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the curse of starting up. You're like, "Ah, I just don't wanna starve." Like, you have a pulse even though you're the biggest asshole on the planet.
Right. Right.
I'll
And,
work with
and you,
you.
I'm a little wimpy sometimes. And, you convince yourself, you tell yourself a story. Well, they're okay. And, but they do, they revenue and this, but at the end of the day, they end up, leaving anyways. And you go, thank God they left. It was like, holy crap. Why didn't I do this 10 years ago? Um, you
Yeah,
know,
it's like when your crazy girlfriend breaks up with you, you're like, "Oh, thank God."
right. Right. But I think because we're so prominent with it and we tell the story so often, I think people that weed themselves out, they come to us and
Mhm.
like, and so I think we've done a really good job over the last few years of really weeding out the people that we want.
Awesome, awesome. So I wanna dig into your kinda upcoming in this industry. So you started in 1989 and then you bought the company in 2002. How did you get traction originally? How'd you grow the business? Did you find a niche? Well, tell me about your start.
No, it's interesting. So because I was a CPA and technically still am, I mean, I get my license, but I haven't practiced in a long time. Um, the founder of our firm, again, who was my mentor, his name is Jack. He found back in the 70s, the CPA seemed to be the best place to go to get business. There's two ways you can get business. You can hunt door to door, do hand to hand combat, or you can try to get to the advisors and become the expert and the go-to for those advisors. So, we created a niche, at least, in the retirement space for a profit sharing, pension plans, cash balance plans, things like that. And we became the go-to firm for all the CPA firms in Cleveland. And so when they had technical issues, we were the guys. We did seminars, we called on them, and they were our best source of revenue. And I even think, today I talk to a lot of advisors that want to partner with CPA firms because the CPA firms, they're good at CPAing, but they have a lot of control of the client, and they seem to be the trusted advisor to the client. And if he says, go to Ron to do your 401k plan, they're not referring 10 people in and I'm fighting it out. They're referring me in, and unless I screw it up really badly, I usually get the cash. So that's been my expertise. And because I was an accountant, or still am technically, I have the secret handshake. It's like we're in the same fraternity. So yeah, I did tax returns like you too. Oh yeah, I did timesheets too, like you. So,
Yeah.
so at least on the retirement side, we've built a niche on dealing with the CPAs. Unfortunately though, I'll tell you, there's not as many as we used to because a lot of the CPA firms are being acquired. They're either being acquired by financial service firms like American Express, CBiz. So now a lot of the CPA firms that used to refer us are now owned by competitors of ours because they, those competitors see the value in having a CPA relationship.
Mm.
But it's still pretty good. It's not like it's dried up, but it's a little. And unfortunately, and this is something that I'm trying to figure out. Actually, it's a good topic. Where's our next marketing strategy? Because the CPA profession has really they kind of screwed themselves. When I took the CPA exam, it was 4 years. Now you got to have 5 years of it. They did that in about 2000 and something, early 2000s. Well, if I can get my MBA in 5 years or get my CPA in 5 years, I can start at 70,000 as a CPA and 120 as an MBA. What am I going to do? And do I want tax season and timesheets? And so there's a shortage of accountants. So there's not as many people going into the profession. And a lot of the people we've dealt with are, I'm 63. They're in their late 50s, early 60s, and they're slowing down too. So there's just not as many young whippersnappers starting their own CPA firms. It's just, so I don't know how the CPA profession is going to solve that, but it's a big problem, I think, in the CPA industry.
So the big companies that are buying up the CPA firms, is that kind of like a farm league for them? Like they buy these CPA companies and then they're like, all right, we're going to be able to, like, use the CPA services, potentially even as a loss leader to find clients for our advisors.
I don't know if they use it as a loss leader, but their theory is the CPA controls the client and is the trusted advisor. Again, if the CPA says use that insurance guy, they usually use them. Use that payroll service, use that retirement planning, use that advisor. So I think they're trying to get like vertical integration. And if they already have clients that are advisors, those advisors may need CPAs, may already have one, but now we can offer a service to our clients. The other thing is that it's kind of the other type of what's happening in that industry is big CPA firms are acquiring small retirement advisory firms. So it's going both ways, right? So a big CPA firm, they want the investment advisor. They go, well, how do we maximize our profit? Auditing's a pain in the ass. But if we can buy an investment advisory firm, then now we can now funnel our clients to them. So it kind of goes both ways, depending on where they're going.
And then throw some tax planning, estate planning, uh, corporate givebacks and divorce and one-stop shop.
Yeah, well, yeah. And there's a balance. Some people love a one-stop shop, which is grocery store. And other people like to go to the grocery store, but they'd like to go to the butcher shop to get meat.
Yeah.
But I think
Specialist.
a one-stop shop is convenient. Now we're in this convenience age right? I'd rather, I got to go, I don't want to make 4 stops to hit my lawyer, my accountant, and my advisor. If I can go to one place and just walk down the hall, it
Yeah, but the meat's better at the butcher and the bread's better at the baker, right?
generally I would say yes. But, if you go to some of the grocery stores, you know, either now have their own, sort of bought their own bakery, but they have a huge bakery, which is almost as good or better than a local bakery, right? So now they're trying to do the same thing as in
Mm,
that industry. So,
yeah.
yeah, well, no
Uh,
different. I mean, I know this is, I have a Tesla. Tesla now sells car insurance.
yeah,
You can buy, I don't have it. I have a friend of mine who's my agent, but okay. So now they figure we have all these cars. How do we maximize the profit on our cars? Well, let's do, who knows what the next thing they're going to integrate into, firms like that.
yeah, yeah. Oh, it's just, yeah, finding other, revenue sources, right?
Right.
That are relevant. Awesome. Okay, so you understood CPAs because you came from that world and you built your practice. So did it grow pretty fast then? You
Well,
kind of hit the
it
ground
did.
running?
So the term that we also are what we call a TPA, third party administrator for retirement plans. But the term in our industry is called direct producing TPA, which means that we also do the investment. We don't have to, but we can. We can be the
Mm,
investment advisor on the case as well as just being the TPA. Well, the best thing to happen to my company in the 90s was they called directed 401k accounts, where you can pick and choose where your money goes. Prior to that, you had a financial advisor managing your money in the whole, everybody's money together. Well, once they had to, you pick 3 mutual funds, they go, anybody can pick 3 mutual funds. My 30-year Merrill Lynch guy is no better than my first year guy who's picking Fidelity. Both can pick the same 3 Fidelity, right?
mhm.
Kind of even the playing field. And then we just started a campaign, and my partner, who's in charge of our investments, his name is Michael Moskal, is just one of the most passionate people I've ever met in the retirement space. And so I was more the technical geek, doing the technical compliance stuff as the actuary, and he was the investment. And we just started kind of hustling. And there was a need for this. But then what's also nice about the retirement space, and I'm a big retirement plan, and I think advisors are missing the boat. The term in our industry, Chris, we call it 2-plan Tony. Most advisors have under 2 plans. They get 401k plans by accident. And
Mhm.
I'm like, you should all want 401k plans. You get 50 participants. You get 50 people for IRA rollovers, 50 people for insurance, 50 people for wealth management. It's like fish in a barrel,
Mhm.
but they don't know enough about it. So they kind of stay away from it. Right. So I think advisors should want to sign up for the space. So, give you an example, we put on about $50 million a year in deposit. So the other thing about retirement plans is it's deposit every year. You get a $2 million wealth client, he may not put any more money in, but a $2 million 401k plan is putting in 200,000 a year, 300,000 a year, that, right? It keeps growing. But then
Mhm.
money comes out. What are these people that have $100,000 going to do with their 100,000? Well, IRA rollover, and they never leave, right? We have a couple 100 million in IRA rollovers, and they're just happy as a clam. And because they're not getting called on by your Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley advisors, right? So
Mhm.
there's this need, I think, this unserviced market, which is the middle market, the people that have most of their money in retirement plans. And I think advisors should be like signing up to try to get as many retirement plans as they can and figure out how to do them. And one of the things we do is we work with advisors on how to help them sell retirement,
Mhm.
but I mean, I didn't mean when I'm a sales hat. I just think they're missing the boat because to me, it's a huge opportunity. And, again, of our 4.3 billion, about a billion is in retirement plans. And, and it's a huge market and it's a huge service. Again, a lot of these, when I meet with these participants, and I don't meet with them as much as I used to when I was younger, but I'll meet with a participant and they'll go, Ron, thank you. I wouldn't have saved a dime. And all of a sudden you meet with them and they have $250,000 plus Social Security. They're going to live better in retirement than they even when they were making 40 grand at a little manufacturing company. you
Mhm.
know, and that story I hear over and over and over. So there's something rewarding about it too. I don't want to sound too hokey about it, but it is rewarding when uh, and my favorite story, if you don't mind, her name's Helen.
Sure.
Helen is one of my best friends. His name is Mike Leon, his mother. And she wasn't my client, but she worked for a little nonprofit. And one day Mike says to me, would you meet with my mother? So I meet with Helen, and she comes in my office, and she's still living. She's like 92, but this was probably like 30 years ago. And she gave me all her statements. She had no idea she had, like, I don't know, $350,000 in her 401k account. Plus she was going to get Social Security, plus this. Next thing you know, she goes like, oh my God. I mean, she thought like she would have to move out of her house if she retired. And she was actually making more money in retirement because she had no idea what she had. Now, again, she wasn't my client, but I have that story over and over again in my clients as well.
Hmm.
So it's just a fun story so Helen's my favorite story because she's a typical, what we see. So
Yeah, that's amazing. So you mentioned something earlier. You get 50 401ks. You're talking about like signing like an entire business that you manage the retirement
yeah,
plans for the
yeah. So if
employees.
you, right. So if you do a 401k plan and the client,
Yeah.
let's say it's a small business and they have 30 employees, that's 30 opportunities for insurance, 30
Mhm.
opportunities for wealth management. Plus, a lot of those 30 people have spouses that also have 401k plans and also have wealth management. Plus, you have the owner option. And then many times those owners, will sell the business. And the other thing is, again, this is a kind of a defensive. If you're managing the wealth management for a client and you're not managing his 401k plan, that means some other advisors having access to your client, right? I wouldn't
Mhm.
want that. If I was an advisor, I want to manage all this stuff. I don't want some other advisor managing the 401k when now he's still got a little in with that advisor. So
Mhm.
I'd rather manage all of it. Uh, so it's,
Yeah, box them out.
yep. It's kind of like what the banks did, really, right? Two things. The banks are really good at, you have your family trust, I have a bank and they're okay. It's Fifth Third Bank. I'm not good, but it's hard to change because I pay bills through automatic deposit. I have direct deposit. I have automatic withdrawal. To make a change from my bank would be a big pain in the neck. Well, the
Mhm.
more stuff you do for a client, if you do is if you can help with their wills and trusts, if you can help with their tax planning because you have a CPA firm as a partner, whether you own them or partner with them, and you do their 401k, now how do you leave that advisor? Like he's so intertwined in your life, and to me, that's
Yeah,
where it's at.
yeah,
How
yeah.
as many things as you can, as long as you do them well. I don't mean just do things for the sake of doing it.
Mhm. So, were you finding these businesses with 30 plus employees, like, through specific CPAs who served business owners, or
Yeah.
what was
So,
the best way to find
again,
them?
for me, that was, I'm not the best cold caller. It's kind of like us. I don't want to get a list. But again, my expertise and over my career is I call on CPAs, and CPAs want to know, your stuff. They don't want to bullshit stuff. So we do seminars and we schmooze with them, and then we show them our technical expertise so they feel comfortable. And then I haven't been as good as actually trying to motivate them to really look into their book. That's the toughest piece, right? I mean, accountants are busy. Usually I get a referral when there's a problem, right? Their client's upset about something and they go, Ron, can you help me fix the problem? But I think a lot of plans have problems. They just don't know it yet,
Mhm.
right? It's not to the level of, but we haven't gone as far as like paying CPA firms. And, some of my advisors and mentors said it's kind of distasteful I have to work through that, like paying for a client, right? Am I good or am I not good? Right. But I don't know. Maybe someday we'll be in the referral business where an accountant's you have like a referral program. So they at least see some benefit of referring, but
Mhm.
then they lose their objectivity. Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
Any good, uh, strategies on how to schmooze CPAs?
geez, no, I mean, well, again, if you are a CPA, you sort of have the secret handshake. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
that is just, reaching out, I'm a very verbal. I'm not an email guy. So I reach out, go to lunch, schmooze, but also I show them expertise, whether it's monthly newsletters, seminars that we've done to show that you know your stuff,
Mhm.
and
What
good.
oh, go
No,
ahead.
go ahead.
What you mentioned they'll reach out when they have problems. What kind of problems?
So their client has a big tax liability, and they don't. Can you help me reduce the taxes by doing some creative planning? Uh, the Fidelity screwed up, and they forgot to pay my participant, and my client's really upset. Uh, uh, I don't know. It's like that. My
Mhm.
client's getting big refunds because they can't contribute enough out of their 401k plan. There's got to be something we can do. Anything you can try to figure out for. So
Mm,
there's only about 10 really headaches they have. Participants are upset, fees, tax deductions. Maybe they got audited by the IRS and the IRS or Department of Labor and they made some changes and they go, oh my God, we didn't know that. So those are, the major headaches that clients are
mhm.
having.
Okay, awesome. And then, you're growing the business, 2000, 2002 comes around. How did you make the decision to buy the business?
Well, his senior partner, Jack, said, guys, and at that time there were actually three of us. He said, I've made my money. I think it's time for me. And he was, I think, 67, 68, and he was very magnanimous. He says, it's time. He didn't need to. He said, it's time. It's time for you guys to take over. And he had kind of retired a couple years before, anyways, really. I mean, like,
Yeah.
and so we made the deal. And then over the next couple of years, I bought out my other two partners. It's one of those things. I'm pretty entrepreneurial and want to drive the business. My other two partners, we were all together for 30 years. They love servicing clients. These two guys, one's name's Michael, one's name's Paul. I've never met two people that can service clients like they just love it. They can't wait to sit at the kitchen table with a client and go over all their stuff. And they just get a lot of utility out of it. And I
Mhm,
get utility out of driving the ship and growing the business. And, going from at that time, maybe we had $400 million in assets. And I think we grew it to about 1.3 billion before we merged with 17 in 2016. I mean, in 2022. So I just like growing, more than I like. Not that I don't like servicing, but I like the hunt, closing the business, and driving the business. And I
mhm.
get a lot of fun out of doing that.
Yeah, that's fun. You get like a hit a dopamine when you
Yeah,
find a new client.
yeah. But when a client says, "I want to sit," you come over to my house and sit on my kitchen table and go over my portfolios, it's like, ugh. uh, yeah, I mean, but that's not what I like to do, anyways. So
Yeah.
that's there's chocolate and vanilla, and we have some great advisors like Michael and Paul of the old MGO, and the other advisors we have at 17. Again, we have about 50 total. They're those kind of guys. They
Mhm,
just love helping people. You
mhm,
know, I'd rather, not that I don't like helping people. I like designing retirement plans. I like selling it. I like the art of not as much hunting as much as closing.
mhm.
And that's really fun for me. I look at it as a retirement plan and the IRS code are like my easel. And I get to build and draw a picture and then present it. So I call that creating my own masterpiece.
Yeah, that's great. So the core value always be growing. That was coined by Ron.
Uh, by me, Ron.
Yeah.
So, we like to grow. So we want
Yeah.
that we don't want growing doesn't mean growing your book. It could be growing as a person, always wanting to get better. My,
Mhm.
one of my mentors said, everybody's like a leaky tire. Either air's going in or air's coming out. You can't stay stagnant. Let's keep putting air in. So even the way I am, I like to read business books.
Uh,
I have an executive coach. Even though I'm 63, my landing gear is not down.
yeah.
And so the people that really resonate with 1-7 are those kind of people that want to continue to grow personally, grow professionally. They could grow spiritually. Some people, I don't know, however they want to grow. So that's kind of, do you have a growth mindset?
Mhm,
Doesn't just mean I want to hunt and grow my AUM. I want to grow as a person, grow as a husband, grow as a father, grow as a grandfather, those kind of things. So
mhm.
that's,
Yeah. No, I'm a big fan of executive coaches. I have a business coach as well, and he is essentially my therapist who has a deep understanding of business.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lady, by the way, her name's
Mhm.
Michelle. She's in Victoria. She'd be a dynamo for a podcast, by the way. She's
Oh,
awesome.
okay.
But anyways, yeah. So I want to keep improving, and
Mhm.
improving's fun to me. It's like I don't want to stay stagnant, and I get
Yeah. Yeah.
leaky tire. That resonates with me. So that's
Mhm.
why it's very important that that was one of our core values. We want a growth mindset. And if you meet Rick and my partner Todd, their growth mindset. They want to keep improving as well. They're like, they use executive coaching. We just did some training on some psychology profiling called Culture Index that we use at our firm. And it's like, we're always trying to get better at what we're doing. And to me, that's what keeps me going.
That's fun and exciting to do. You think of the folks who, work 30 or 40 years and retire, and then they die 6 months later. You're like you're
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm not that's brutal there. Um, so yeah, I want to keep figuring out this path of yours. So once you took over, or you bought the business and then eventually bought your partners out, what changed, or what did you emphasize or focus on to maximize growth?
Uh, that's a good question. The
Thank you.
first, no, the first thing I did to start, so I didn't know what I didn't know, right? So all of a sudden you're now, the sole owner of a business. You go, what the hell are you going to do? There's no courses you can take, right?
Mhm.
So I joined actually an organization called the Entrepreneurs Organization. I don't know if you've heard of it
Oh,
called
EO,
EO. Yeah.
of course.
Yes. So I'm in EO Cleveland. I didn't know what
Nice.
EO was. And then
EO is great.
I got into a forum, and now I'm seeing what other successful people do to drive their business. Like, oh, we do that. And then again, EOS was really the catalyst. So EO was my first catalyst. And through EO, I got to EOS. Now we got the catalyst. Okay, now we do what they call the VTO. And then you got your meetings and you create your core values and you create your this. That was the first major step for growth because I didn't know how to grow. I don't know, we just always did what we did, and even accounting firms you talk to them, they don't really have a strategy for growth. They go get more clients. How do you do that? I don't know. Just go get them. Like, are they really laser focused? So that got
Mm,
us laser focused for, okay, what businesses are we in? Right. So one thing that our firm does, this was part of EOS, we have a program called managed accounts that we can actually manage the 401 individual 401k participants in a portfolio. Okay. So that's a revenue generator. What else can we do? We can grow it this way. What else can we do? We can grow it that way. We can build portfolios, but those are because we got laser focused and really thought about growth of the business, not just letting the ship float and wherever it went, it went. So that helped me get laser focused on what we want to do. And the second thing was help with having a great executive team.
mhm.
I am, I can't implement anything. that is not my strong suit.
Mhm.
So, but if you know that in the EOS model, they call it the integrator. I have a great integrator named Ted, and Ted's the exact opposite of me. He wouldn't do an interview. He would do it on email. But you
Yeah,
give him
yeah.
a task to implement, and within, all of a sudden he's got 17 meeting schedules and things done in like 30 days. For me,
Wow.
it'd be like 3 years and I'm still wobbling, figuring out how to do it. So when you know your strength, and
Yeah.
that's what EOS helped me with. Where's my strength?
Mhm.
Where's the executive team strengths? And letting them letting out the leash a little bit and let them do what they do and not being, and I've never been a micromanager anyways, but
Mhm.
so those are the things that helped us really
Yeah.
get laser focused.
How
And
how did EOS I mean, it sounds like you're very aware of your strengths, which is, I would argue, the most important aspect of being a successful entrepreneur is know your strengths and know your weaknesses. How did EOS help you identify your strengths and understand what you needed help with, i.e. your weaknesses?
yeah, another good question. So first,
Thank you.
um, we have a really good implementer named Ron Kaminsky, who that's part of what he does. And he understands personality or behavior style. Two, we've done two different psychological profiling programs. One is called, did you ever hear of Colby?
I've heard of it. I don't know anything
So,
more about it.
did you ever hear of they used to use it for the NFL. What was the test they took in the NFL?
Oh, yeah. It escapes me, but I know
That's
what
her,
you're talking about.
that's her father.
Okay.
So, Colby, I forget her first name, her father,
Yeah, yeah.
Wonderlic.
Wonderlicked. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that was used in the NFL for years. They don't use it anymore. I think a couple years ago, but so Colby also tells you your strengths. So you know where your strengths are. And culture index is another one that kind of gives you how your brain works. So example, my attention to detail is low. I am not going to give me 3 bullet points to communicate. Don't give me 4
Mhm.
paragraphs. And so those kind of help you, not kind of, they do help you understand who you are. And then once you know who you are, then you can kind of work on the stuff. So that helped too. But EO has helped too, because we've done some blind spot exercises and things with, I think that's critically important for everybody to have a mastermind group. My
Mhm.
EO group is my mastermind group. They
Mhm.
know my blind spots. And when I'm having issues, they can go, you're not good at that, Ron. Or, yeah, you kind of, so it seems like when you have a good group of personal advisors, and it goes back to what you said, you have an executive coach.
Mhm.
Executive coach know you better than you know you. My
Mhm.
forum
Oh,
knows
yeah.
than I know you.
100%.
When you have advisors that can, and aren't afraid to tell you where your weaknesses are, but you also have to
Yeah.
be in-minded in accepting the fact that you have weaknesses.
Yeah.
I don't know if that directly answered, but there's just
No, no,
not like
that's
one
great.
thing that,
Yeah. Yeah. And EO, I mean, you have to already be a pretty successful business owner to be a part of that. So, has that led to new business owner clients as well, or do you kind of
uh,
is that a sacred space?
it's, yes. I mean, the goal of EO, it's almost frowned upon to market to, they don't want you joining EO and saying, hi, Ron Gross, damn glad to meet you. But if you're in EO long enough and people get to know you and trust you, they're going to want to use you just
Yeah.
because you're in the same fraternity.
Yeah, and you guys are probably very close because you know some very intimate details about each other.
Right. And we all get entrepreneurs. We get each other. You
Yeah.
know, it hasn't been a ton of business, but a decent amount has come. But it wasn't because I was prospecting for it. It's just because, when they come to me, I'm like, are you sure, Ron? And like, I try to fight it. But at the end of the day, if they push hard enough, then I'll work on it.
Mhm. Awesome. And when did you join EO?
2011. So I was,
2011.
let's see, how old was I? I was 50. I was 50.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 50. It's one of those things I wish I had joined when I was 30. It's
Yeah.
impactful to my business and even my personal life because,
Mhm.
you can't separate the two,
No.
and I'm also grateful. I have a very supportive spouse. And when I have to work long hours, it's not like, where the hell are you? Can you, over the years, so I've been very fortunate with that too.
Mm,
So,
nice. Nice. Um, so you mentioned earlier that you have 50 financial advisors
yeah.
inside the company. Were those all grown organically or were recruited or mix of the two?
Yeah. No, you asked a really good question. Very
Thanks.
penetrating. But so, probably, remember there were 2 companies that merged. One had about 5 advisors. Those were just, we hired them. They grew organically. We hired them
Mhm.
when they were young kids. And, one of them's, 40 now. He's been with me for almost 20 years. And my partner's been with me for, Michael and Paul, my former partners have been there with 35 years each. But when 1-7 started, most of the advisors from 1-7 are what they call tuck-ins, so they were recruited in. They were at maybe some other RIA. They could have been at Morgan Stanley. They could have been at Fidelity. They could have been at Raymond James, Ameriprise. They wanted a better life and better, some of it's not all compensation, but some of it's payout. Some of it's, I talked to a guy at PNC Bank and he joined us, and um, they were on a 3-hour compliance call every Friday. Like,
Mm.
ugh, oh, and then you can only use those funds and these funds. And so they're trying to get a better quality of life, and I don't like the term, I mean, I guess people use work-life balance, but it's really more quality of I want to do what I want to do. And I don't want to, you put a lot of the firms like Morgan Stanley, banks put handcuffs on their advisors and limit what they can do.
Mhm.
So most of the 1-7 side advisors, so I'd say probably 40 of the 50 advisors were recruited in that already had a book of business that were dissatisfied where they were and wanted a better, whatever,
Mhm.
community, better payout, better, less not regulation from SEC or department, or FINRA, but less, um,
Micromanagement.
micromanagement, like by Fidelity or, things like
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
You treat advisors like adults.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And a lot of them didn't. They're like, well, you got to use, we don't want you to do that. And, or like some of the firms, their payouts, their bonuses were based on how many mortgages they sold. They go, well, but I'm not in the mortgage business. I want to
Mhm.
build my AUM. I don't want to sell mortgages. Remember there was a Wells Fargo thing a few years ago where, they opened fake bank accounts and they got,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, because they were getting bonuses on bank accounts because Wall Street
yeah.
could see how many bank accounts they own. Right. It's like, well, I don't want to open bank accounts. That's not why I'm here. I want to service my clients the way I want to
Yeah.
service my clients. So, you know, uh, so that's kind of Todd actually, when you meet Todd Resnick, he's really, he'll give you the whole story about I mean, he's just one of the most connected and passionate people I've ever met. And you can see why they joined because he's the main recruiter. I mean, he's a partner, but he's the main, and he just connects with people and he can sell the vision of
Mm,
why he left Morgan Stanley, and it resonates with the advisors that joined.
okay. So is that his, kinda major
Yep.
focus, is recruitment?
We, Todd, by the way, we call him the squirrel. Uh, oh, here's a nut. Oh, here's a nut. Here's a nut.
Ah,
When you get him focused, there is nobody better that can connect with advisors than Todd Resnick.
mhm.
He's that good. So I got to keep
Wow.
my job as the CEO is Todd, stay in your lane. So I gave him a nickname. I call him Michael Phelps.
Ah,
I said, Todd. So anytime he's getting out of his lane, I go, Todd, Michael Phelps, Michael Phelps. And that tells him, get back in your swim lane and
yeah, yeah,
do what you do best. I don't want any this other extraneous noise out here. So,
yeah. Wow. So how does he get on re ideal recruitable advisor radars, and how does he build the relationship and pull them
well,
over?
um, a lot of our advisors have come through recruiters. There's a
Mhm,
cottage industry of recruiters.
mhm,
So first he connects with the recruiter, sells the vision, and then the recruiters then refer Todd. Some of it's Todd's just out there meeting people and he goes to conferences and he was on a board of, I think, TD Ameritrade before they merged. He was on some and things like that. And he's just, when you meet him, I always kid him. I said, Todd, you make me sick. It's hard not to like him.
yeah.
He's got this and I really admire that about him that you can't not like him. And so when you
Yeah.
just, it's like, yeah, I like that guy. I don't know what it is, but I love him. And that's how when I first met him with, my nephew, Rick, who's one of the partners. And it's
Mhm,
like, yeah, I love that guy. And
mhm.
he's almost like my fourth kid. That's
Oh,
how close.
wow.
But
Yeah,
he's this connectivity, whether it comes from recruiters or he meets him at a conference or he's just got this and then he can sell the vision and he's great at
yeah.
selling it. Great at
Oh,
selling.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll love him when you talk. To him. You will, I'd like to talk to you afterwards just to see if you have the same, uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man. Um, yeah, that's, people like that are just, magical. I would describe you as that way also, Ron. You're very, magnetic and,
well, thank you.
easy to like person.
I don't really see it. And it's interesting. My executive coach said, Ron, people see you better than you see yourself. So it's like, well, thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Awesome. Well, we have gone, significantly over time. I lose track of time when I'm, uh, having a good time, so thanks
Oh, I hope
for
this was
hanging
helpful. I
out
know
with
it
us.
was not the typical advisor because,
That's not what I'm looking for.
what high net worth is for me is in the
Mhm,
retirement space. And
mhm,
one other comment I wanted to make is that you put it, I think, in the email, the way, it's interesting. most of my large clients were not large clients when I started with them.
Mm-mm.
We didn't.
Pre ultra.
Yeah. So like my largest 401k plan maybe is 50 or $60 million, but they started with me when they had like 500,000.
Wow.
I've been more of a planting of a seed. You start with $1 million client, net worth, and you work with them for 30 years and then they're a $10 million client
Mm-hmm.
or 20, or then they sell a business and,
Wow.
so haven't been, it's like, I'm not getting 50 million net worth clients. We're starting when they're a little smaller and working them and being their advisor over time. And it takes a longer time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
I think and then they never, then you're their client because you've been
Yeah.
with them from the good times, the bad times, you helped them grow. And that's also the fun part to see somebody who was worth $1 million and then they sell a business for 50 million. You go, I was part of that. There's something gratifying because you were part of that process, whether it was the retirement plan or just helping with their personal wealth at the
Mm-hmm.
time, helping them figure out their mortgage and do this and helping their kids go
Mm-hmm.
to college. You had some little piece of their success. And that's really it's really a lot of fun.
Wow. And is there specific messaging or specific strategies to get on these up and coming business owners' radars?
My first reaction is no, but you got to be there. Half
Yeah.
of sales is showing up. So you can't sit in your basement and expect to get sales. You got to be out there, whatever that means. And one other thing is that I'm a big believer in, and it just isn't directly answering. I'm a big fan of as you give, so shall you get.
Yes.
And
Givers gain.
so I'm on a few nonprofit boards. My favorite one is it's about we get inner city kids off the streets into wrestling. And
Oh,
last summer we
cool.
impacted 1,500 kids. They actually went to Barcelona a couple years ago.
Nice.
Kids that probably never were out of the city of Cleveland,
Wow.
and we're changing their lives. Well,
Yeah.
there's something about that too, is you put it out to the universe and you give of yourself and somehow, and again, back to my mentor, Jack Moskell, he said, Ron, don't measure where it comes from. It's not tit for tat. You
Mhm.
give of yourself and it will come back to you. Don't measure it. Don't measure it. But you
Yeah.
still call on clients and you still got to do stuff. But if you put yourself out there and do good things for people and not that I go on a nonprofit board just to get business. I do it because I love what
Mhm.
I'm doing. But a lot of people that see your passion on the right side says, well, shit, I want to work with that guy. And like one of my lawyers, I met him on that organization. He was the
Mhm.
corporate lawyer for, it's called Beat the Streets. It's
Mhm.
based, and now he's my corporate lawyer because I love his passion for on our board that it's like, hell, if I have some legal work, I want him to do it. So I
Mhm.
hired him because of it. And I think it goes both ways. So I'm a big
Mhm.
fan of, um,
Yeah.
thing we haven't done. I thought about this. When we meet advisors and recruit them, should we require them to be charitable? It- it's like because if you're not charitable, are you just kind of selfish? I mean, if you're making
Yeah.
$1 million and you're not giving a decent amount away, whatever that means, I'm not judging what that means, then yeah, are you kind of an asshole? You're back to our core. You really, you know, and, but
Yeah.
the people that are part of our firm are very philanthropic. In fact,
Yeah.
we did this thing called Jeans for Charity. Before
Mhm.
COVID, we let our employees wear jeans every Friday and we said, we picked a charity and we deducted it out of their pay. We still have people doing that and they work at home
Mm.
because they're charitable. It feels good. Feels good. And so I'm a big fan of that too. So
Yeah, yeah. I agree with you. The, like, giving back, volunteering, I was in the Big Brother program.
oh, yeah,
It just you just leave, like, your cup overfloweth. Like, you
yes,
just feel better, and then good things happen, and that's really just icing on the cake
correct.
after
Correct.
that.
I
Yeah,
100% agree. 100%
yeah,
agree. And
yeah.
when I see these kids that wouldn't have a chance without us, and now we're getting them off the streets. They're into wrestling. We do mentoring. We make sure they do their homework. We talk to their
Mhm.
teacher. It's not just wrestling. Wrestling is the carrot to get them into the door,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's all about everything else. And,
yeah.
so I'm a big fan of that too. And I think,
Mhm,
so over my life, I've tried to give back as much as I can. And somewhere I know it's working, whatever that means.
mhm.
and
Yeah.
it just makes me feel better about myself, then it's going to come across to somebody.
Yeah. And I'm sure something like this already exists. I just haven't had the time to look it up. But like something similar to what you're doing, but for entrepreneurship, like teaching, young up and coming kids, like, hey, there's other options besides, becoming a YouTube star, becoming a, athlete. Like you can just start a business right now and like here's resources and mentors and I need to find that.
Yeah, I don't, yeah. I mean, some colleges have some like entrepreneur,
Yeah.
but that's not really the same thing. It's
Yeah,
almost
yeah.
like, remember, what junior achievement is?
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of like junior achievement, but like 2 levels above that, right? Junior
Mhm.
achievement is just getting kids kind of after school to do stuff to, kind of mentoring.
Yeah.
But how do we take them to the next level that's saying, hey,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Because it's purpose and then it's, you know, tangible income, that can not only transform their lives, but potentially their families, and it's, and then it's more people outside of the 9 to 5 slog, people who
Right.
are,
Yeah.
like us who wanna, you know, do what they wanna do.
Yep.
So,
So
yeah.
I don't have any other, secret sauce other than, like at half a sale, 90% of sales is showing up. So
Yeah.
you got
Yeah.
to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
For when I was single and not dating much, and it was like a Saturday night, and I was sitting at home, and my dad said, what are you doing?" I go, Well, he goes, "Well, I can tell you, you're not going to meet anybody sitting here in the living room, yeah, right? So I may go to bars or something or do something
Yeah.
because you're not going to make sales sitting in your living room.
There you go. There you
Go
go.
out and whatever you do, whether it's networking with CPAs, whether it's going to conferences, whether it's volunteering, do something.
Mhm.
And if you are consistent with it, and do something that you're passionate about. Don't get on, do something that you just do it. If you just do it to get clients, it's going to be so apparent that you're just there to give out your business card, and do something that you're really passionate about. And I've been on a couple nonprofit boards that like, oh, why did I say yes? Because I'm not good at saying no. And like, I just couldn't get, it wasn't my mission. I did it because I liked the person who asked me, and it just was painful. But the wrestling one, I can't wait to get to the board meetings because we're doing so much good for people, and it's just fun. And it's a bunch of group of crazy wrestlers that
Yeah.
are, doing this organization in Cleveland. So
Yeah. That's a beautiful thing. That's great. So my final question for you, Ron,
yeah.
is it's open-ended. You can take it in any direction you want. The question is, what are you working towards?
Um, you know, you asked really, I mean, you must have, like, you almost could have read my, something. um,
Thank you.
I am working with my executive coach, and I have coaching today. What's next for me after 1/7? So
Cool.
I'm 63. Last summer, I took a month off. My executive team made me take a month off and turned off my email. But,
Whoa.
by the way, not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Right? On one hand, great, my team can handle everything. On the other side, shit, am I needed at the business?
Yeah.
It happened while I was gone. But what's going to be next for me? What's the next stage of my life going to be? And
Yeah.
it's probably 2 to 4 years away. When I'm 60, I'll be 63 in a month. Probably when I'm 65, 66, 67. What's next? Is it going to be still part of 1/7? Will I just be mentoring? Will I just working at Beat the Streets? I've thought of years, would I love to be a sommelier someday and just go to parties and teach people about wine?
That'd be fun.
I
You'd
don't
be
know.
great at that. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to, that's the main project I'm working on. And, Rick and Todd, Rick will be 43 and Todd's 44. The goal is over the next year to two to turn the business leadership to them. They're on a leadership team
Mm,
to really take over.
mm,
And you have to pass it. It's not healthy for me to be the leader till the end, right? When do
mhm.
you pass it? So once I pass the torch, then what is my role at the firm? And what do I do outside of the firm? It's a little scary because, your whole life, I've been working since 22. That's my identity. How do you create an identity that isn't tied to 1/7?
Mm.
So I'm working, and it's a little uncomfortable. Some of it I don't really want to look at because it's easier to kick the can down the road. Uh, but it's something that I have to deal with. and Rick and Todd are great to work with. So they're helping me as well. And what's next for me? And I want to
Yeah.
make sure that Chris, that I have something to do. As
Mhm.
I mentioned my mentor before, and he's close to me as my dad. My dad died in 1987. I joined the firm in
Oh,
89.
sorry.
But his name is Jack. He's a shell of himself. He retired at 67 and didn't do that exercise. What's next?
Mm.
He knew he wanted something next, and there is nothing next. He didn't
Mhm.
take courses. He didn't play in a golf game. He doesn't play cards. He doesn't go out with, he doesn't volunteer. Like, I don't want to be that.
Y
I'm going to be very intentional when I take the next step. I want to be very intentional about what I'm doing and make sure that I have motivation to get up in the morning and be productive and do whatever I can do.
Mhm.
So it's a very unsettling thing I'm working on. It's easier to work on studying to be an actuary. I take the test, do this, and you're very rigid. You should do it. And that was easy. This is
Yeah.
much more because you have to do a lot of self-reflection, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not so easy. I'm very not good at it.
Well, you could have fooled me. You seem to possess an uncommonly high amount of self-understanding. So
Well, thank you.
I
Thank
I think you're gonna find some awesome stuff and keep this train rolling.
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Ron, where can our audience find out more about you in 1-7?
Pardon me? Oh,
Where can our audience
let's
find out
see.
more about you?
It's yeah, I got you. Well, our website is www.weare17.com. But I'm also on LinkedIn and I'm on Facebook as well. I'm just LinkedIn is just Ron Gross at 17 or something,
Mhm.
and my bio is on the website as well. So that's where. And if you go to the Beat the Streets Cleveland website, www.btslead.org, I'm on there too as the board chair, and that's what
Nice.
I'm doing when I'm not working. Good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Well, we'll be sure to link to those in the show notes and on the website and everything. Ron, thank you so much for taking the time, man. This was a blast.
Well, I'm glad it was, and good to meet you. And funny about the story, how we started the conversation. Well, I'm Chris Broadhead.
You
Well, the
know, you
right
had a
Chris
fit.
Broadhead. Maybe you're the right Chris Broadhead.
You had a 50-50 shot there.
That's right.
Awesome. All right. To all our listeners out there, thanks so much for tuning in. Keep on growing out there, everybody. See ya.